Hello everyone. Hope all of you are doing great and all of you have attended. I am just hoping that all of you have attended the part one of this topic, quantitative ability workshop or quant accelerator workshop. I hope all of you have attended the first session and where I have explained what we are going to do in this workshop. I am again just giving you a brief idea what we are doing in this workshop. We are just discussing some of the questions of some medium difficulty level or difficult questions of the topics which we have discussed uh, later in the previous classes. So we have discussed till question number 10th. We have discussed 10 questions in the last class. So we are going to continue from where we have left in the last class. So we are going to start from 11th question. So before starting, I want to say one thing. Please revise as much as you can. Whatever we have taught you in all of the classes, please revise all those topics and try to solve the booklets and everything along with, because later you will not be getting the time. So try to solve everything of the same chapter which you have along with the classes. So and revise whatever you have studied earlier. So revise as much as you will revise, you will get the great results. So I hope you all are studying and giving your best. So all the best for that. So let's begin today's session. Today is the part 2 of quantitative ability workshop or quant accelerator workshop, QWHO handout. So let's start today's class. So let's start from the question as we have discussed. So just take 30-40 seconds to just read the question and get the idea in your mind what has to be done in this question. I hope you all have this handout. If not, then you can refer to this question. So the sum of four, you can just read this question once for you. Then I'll be solving it. Okay, so I hope all of you have read the question and most of you have got the idea what has to be done and from which area this question is. From which area this question is? This question is from sequence and series APGP kind of thing. So the sum of four numbers in an ascending arithmetic progression or AP is 140. What is AP? AP is a series, arithmetic progression is a series in which the difference between any two consecutive term remains the constant, which is called as common difference. So there is a sum of four members in an ascending arithmetic progression. So four terms are there in AP and their sum is 140 and the product of the extreme first and the last term is going to be extreme term. So here are four terms are there. So first and the fourth term is the extreme terms and the product of extreme terms is going to be 1000. Find the greatest of the number, or you need to find out the last term or the fourth term of this AP. So you have given the sum and you have given the product of the extreme terms. You need to find out which one is the fourth term or the greatest term of this AP. So when we have discussed in arithmetic progression, whenever we are assuming three terms in AP, what we will assume? A minus D, A and A plus D. Why so? Because their sum in there, when we take their sum, D will get cancelled out and we will be getting the value of A. Similarly, if we want to assume five terms in AP, what we will assume? We will assume it to be A minus 2D, A minus D, A plus D and A plus 2D. Again, the logic is same, so that whenever we will take some, D and D will get cancelled out and we will be left with A's, or we will be getting the value of A. But now if we want to assume even number of terms, suppose we want to assume four terms, how to assume? We will take difference to be 2D rather than D. So we will take one term to be A minus 3D, other term A minus D, next term A plus D, and the fourth term is A plus 3D. Similarly, if we want to increase the number of terms, we will increase both side 2D 2D. So it will become A minus 5D, A minus 3D, A minus D, A plus D, A plus 3D, A plus 5D, and so on. We can increase the number of terms. In our question, we need to assume four terms. So what we are going to assume? A minus 3D, A minus D, and A plus D and A plus 3D is going to be my four terms. Why we have assumed it like this? Because whenever we are going to take their sum, D's will get cancelled out and will be left out with A. So sum of these four terms is given What is the sum? 140 is given. And what is their sum? 3D will get cancelled out. DD will get cancelled out. We are left with 4A. So if 4A is 140, what is A? A is going to be 35. So now we know the first sum. We know the value of A, and A is the which term? A is no term here. So we have got the value of A. What we want? We want the greatest of the number. So we want A plus 3D value. So we need to get the value of D also to get the value of A plus 3D. So how to get the value of D? We have given one more equation. What is given here? Product of extreme terms is 1000. Now what are extreme terms in this sequence? Extreme terms are A minus 3D and A plus D. First and the last term are called as extreme terms. So their product A minus 3D into A plus 3D is going to be 1000. So A minus 3D, A plus 3D. This is A plus B, A minus B formula. What is A plus B, A minus B? It is A square minus B square. So it will become A square minus 3D ka whole square. And 3D ka whole square is 9D square. So A square minus 9D square is going to be equal to 1000. And we know the value of A is 35. Just plug in the value of A as 35. You will be getting the value of D after solving. And what is the value of D here? The value of D here is 5. Now we know the value of A as well as the value of D. What we need to find out? The greatest of the number, or the last term. What is the last term here? A plus 3D. And we know the value of A is 35, value of D is 5. So what would be the last term? 35 plus 3 into 5, 15. So 35 plus 15 turns out to be 50, which is option number B. So B is your correct answer for this question. What we have done, just let us quick recap. We have assumed four numbers as A minus 3D, A minus D, A plus D and A plus 3. Why we have not assumed ABCD? Because there we will not get anything. We will get four variables. So by assuming like that, whenever we sum all of them, D's will get cancelled out and we'll be left out with A, and we'll be getting the value of one of the variable out of two variables. So we got the value of A to be 35, and one more thing was given, that the product of extreme terms. So A minus 3D and A plus 3D was given as 1000. So from there we have plugging the value of A and got the value of D to be 5. And if D is 5, largest number is A plus 3D. So 35 plus 3 into 5, 15 is going to be 50, your answer. I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay, so let's move on to next question, question number 12. So just take 30-40 seconds to get an idea. You need not to solve. I'll be solving it, the question for you. Just get an idea in your mind what need to be done in such kind of question. For that I am giving you 30-40 seconds. Okay, so I hope all of you have read the question and most of you have got the answer. Whosoever have studied log, you have got the idea what has to be done in this question. So what is the question? Let's just understand the question first. Question here is, if log base 5 of x plus log base cube root of 5 of x plus log base fifth root of 5 of x and so on up till log base 29th root of 5 of x is equal to 675, then find the value of x. You need to find out the value of x. We are going to use a property here where log base a ki power n of b, if power is there in the base, it will come outside. So it will become 1 upon n log base a of b. Again I am explaining what property we are going to use here. Log base a of n, where power is in the base of b. So that power will come outside but with reciprocal. So 1 upon n log base a of b it will become. So we have studied this property in detail in log when we have discussed the log. So I am not again discussing this property. So we are going to use this property here and make the base same for all of them. So first one is log base 5 of x. Second one is log base cube root. Cube root means 5 ki power 1 by 3. And when it will come outside, it will become 1 upon 1 by 3. So 3 will go upward. So this will become thrice. So thrice of log base 5 of x. Similarly, in the next term, log base fifth root of 5x. Fifth root of 5x matlab 5 ki power 1 by 5. And when this power comes outside, it will become 1 upon 1 by 5. and since it is 1 upon 1 by 5, that 5 will come in the numerator. So it will become 5 times of log base 5x. Similarly, in the last one, it is 29th root of 5x. So it is 5 to the power 1 by 29x. So 1 by 29 will come outside, it will become 1 upon 1 by 29. So that 29 will go upward and it will become 29 times of log base 5x. Now in all of these, we have uh, got the base same. Now what we need to do, we have to get rid of the coefficient of log base 5x in all of them so that we can multiply them. So what we are going to do here, or we can take log 5x common from all of them. So what we are going to do, we will take log 5x, log base 5 of x common. What we are left with, 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus so on up till 29, and which is equal to 675. And these are the sum of all the odd number. How many odd number? 1 to 29, 15 odd numbers are there. And what is the sum of n odd numbers? It is n square. What is the sum of n odd numbers? It is n square. So there are 15 odd numbers starting from 1. So their sum is going to be, first n odd natural number sum is going to be n square. So 15 odd number sum is going to be 225. So we can directly put it here as 225 log base 5 of x is equal to 675. So log base 5 of x will become 3 because 225 into 3 is 675. So by taking anti-log, we can take x is equal to 5 to the power 3. We have discussed in log that anti-log, how to take the anti-log. So x will become 5 cube base to the power whatever given. Log base a of, if log base a of b is n, then a to the power n is equal to b. If log base a of b is n, then a to the power n is equal to b. That is the anti-log we can take. So x will become 5 cube, which is 125. So answer is 125 here. So again I am explaining it for you, just to get the quick recap what I have done. I have just first I have made the base same for each of the term. How I did that by taking the powers outside. But if we want to take the powers of base outside, we can take it by taking their reciprocal. So power 1 by 3 will be taken out. 1 upon 1 by 3 will become 3. 1 upon 1 by 5 will become 5, and so on. And then we have taken log base 5 of x common, and the sum of n odd natural number. First n odd natural number is n square. So here first 15 odd natural numbers are given. So their sum has to be 15 square, which is 225. And then accordingly, after taking anti-log, we have got the value of x to be 125. I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay, so let's move on to next question. Question number 13. Just try to get an idea what has to be done in this question, then I'll be solving it for you. Okay, what is the question here? Question number 13 says, find the domain of log 3x square minus 7x minus 10. You need to find out the domain. What is domain? We have discussed this in our chapter also. Domain is all those values of x for which function is defined. That is called as the domain. And what is range? Range is going to be all those values of functions which are defined. So the values of functions which are defined are called as your range, and for which values of x the function is defined is called as domain. So here we need to find out the domain. So we need to find out for what values of x, for what range of values of x this function is defined. Okay, so let's just start. So this is the log function, and log function we have discussed in log that log function is only defined for positive real numbers. Log is not defined for negative, and log is not defined for 0 also. Log 0 is also not defined. We have discussed that in detail in log. So here log 3x square minus 7x minus 10. So our function log of fx is there. So this can only be defined only if 3x square minus 7x minus 10 is greater than 0. So let fx is the function 3x square minus 7x minus 10. This should be greater than 0, then only log will be defined. Log of fx is defined. Why? Because log is defined only for positive real number. Log is neither defined for negative nor defined for 0. Log 0 is also not defined. Log of negative numbers is also not defined. So fx need to be greater than 0. And what is the fx here? 3x square minus 7x minus 10 should be greater than 0. And how to solve the inequality we have discussed in the inequality chapter. What has to be done? We will factorize this first. So how to factorize? We will take two factors as minus 10x plus 3x. X we can take common, it will become 3x minus 10, and from there we can take one common, it will become again 3x minus 10. And after taking the common, we will be getting 3x minus 10 into x plus 1 greater than 0. So their product is should be greater than 0, then it will all be, it will be possible only when x is less than minus 1 and greater than 10 by 3. In between the terms, we will not get any value where it is positive. I hope it is clear, because in between there would be one value, one of them is negative and other is positive, product will become negative, and we want their product to be positive. So it is possible when x is less than minus 1 and when x is greater than 10 by 3. Again, we have discussed this how to do this by plotting number line in the inequality chapter. Okay, and so answer will be choice B, x should be less than minus 1 or x should be greater than 10 by 3. I hope it is clear. But one more way is here. If we do not know inequality or we do not want to solve the inequality, what we can do, from this step onwards, I can get the answer from options only. What we want 3x square minus 7x minus 10 should be greater than 0. And I have been given with 4 options. So what is the range of values of x for which this is defined? So just plug in the sum of the values and you will be getting the answer. So just plug any value which is greater than 10 by 3 and just find out whether it is valid for greater than 10 by 3 values or not valid. So so let's just check out. So suppose 10 by 3 is 3.33. So take any value above 10 by 3. So you can take 4. So if 4 is there, so 3 into 4 square is 16. 16 threes will become 48. Minus 7 fours are 28 minus 10. 28 minus 10 is 38. 48 minus 38 will become 10, which is greater than 0. So it is valid for x greater than 10 by 3, because we have taken the value of x to be 4 and this function is defined. LHS is equal to RHS is happening. LHS is greater than RHS is happening. Sorry. So with this quantity is becoming positive. So this is greater than 0. So obviously x is equal to 4 is satisfied. So option C cannot be the answer. Why option C cannot be the answer? Because x greater than 10 by 3 values are satisfying here. So option C is saying that answer is only x less than minus 1, which is not possible. Option D again cannot be the answer, because why? Because option C D is saying x should lie between minus 1 to 10 by 3. So but for greater than 10 by 3 values we are satisfying the inequality. So option C cannot be the answer. Option D cannot be the answer. What can be the answer? Either A or B can be the answer. So to just get the idea what could be the answer, take any value less than minus 1 and check whether it is satisfying the inequality or not. If it is satisfying the inequality, then option B will become answer. Otherwise option A is the answer. So suppose I take x less than minus 1 any value. Suppose I take minus 2. Just put the minus 2 here. What I will get? 3 into minus 2 pi square. Minus 2 square is 4. 4 3s are 12. Minus 7 into minus 2 will become 14 plus 14, and I hope it is clear to you. So it is plus 14 plus what we have got from the 3x square, 4 3 are 12. 14 plus 12 will become 28, and 28 minus 10 is positive, so again satisfied. So option B is going to be my answer. So if you do not know how to solve inequality, then also you can get all the questions solved just by taking the help of the option, just by plugging some of the values from the options also. And if you know how to solve inequality, you can do it like this also. So you have both the options available for you. I hope it is clear to every one of you. So we have discussed one question of inequality in the last session also, and we have discussed one question of inequality here, where we have not used the concept of inequality. We have just plugged in the values from the option. I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay, so let's move forward. Question number 14. Just try this question. Just get an idea what has to be done in this question. Take 20, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Okay, I hope all of you have read the question. Let's just read this question once again with me. I'll be explaining the question first, then we'll be solving this question together. So, question number 14 says, in a certain question paper, a candidate is required to answer 7 questions out of 10 questions. So, total number of questions here is 10, out of which the candidate has to answer 7 questions. And these 10 questions, the total number of available questions are 10, and these are divided into two sections containing 5 questions each. So section A and section B is happening, and in both the sections 5 questions were there. So in how many ways he can answer the paper such that he answers at most 4 questions from each section. So what is the maximum number of questions he can answer from each section? 4. He cannot answer all the 5 questions from one of the section. So this condition has to be satisfied, and he has to answer how many total questions? 7 total questions he has to ask, and he cannot, and one more condition is there, he cannot answer more than 4 questions from the any of the section. So he cannot answer all the 5 questions from any of the section. So what should be the breakup of answering the question in following these conditions? The possible way are 4 questions from the first section and 3 questions from the second section, so that their sum will become 7 questions. Or other way around, 3 questions from the first section and 4 questions from the second section, so that 3 plus 4 again will become 7 questions which he has answered. He cannot answer 5 questions from one of the section and 2 from one of the section, because condition is there that at most he can solve 4 questions from each of the sections. So that case is eliminated from this condition. So there are only 2 cases which are going to happen: 4 from one section and 3 from second section, and the vice versa, 3 from first section and 4 from second section. So in how many ways can he do that? In both the paper, in both the section, 5 questions are available. So to answer 4 questions from the first section, he need to select 4 questions from 5 questions. It can be done in 5C 4 ways. Simultaneously he need to answer 3 questions from the second section. So 5C3, in how many ways he can select 3 questions from the 5 questions in the second section? 5C3 ways. So we have to multiply both of them, 5C4 into 5C3. This is case number 1, when he is selecting 4 questions from first section and 3 questions from second section. What is the next case? When he is selecting 3 questions from first section and 4 questions from second section. In how many different ways he can select 3 questions from the first section? 5C3, because 5 total questions are available in first section. Out of those 5, he want to select 3 questions, or he want to answer 3 questions from that set. So he can do it in 5C3 ways. Simultaneously, he has to select 4 questions, or he has to answer 4 questions from the second section. So 4 questions can be selected or answered from the second set in 5C4 ways. So 5C3 into 5C4. And we know the formula to calculate NCR. We have studied that in PNC. What is the formula to calculate NCR? It is n factorial divided by r factorial into n minus r factorial. So what is 5C4? It is going to be 5 factorial divided by 4 factorial into 1 factorial, which is 5 into 4 factorial divided by 4 factorial. 4 factorial will get cancelled out. We'll be getting 5. Similarly, what is the value of 5C3? It is going to be 5 factorial divided by 3 factorial into 2 factorial. So 5 into 4 into 3 factorial divided by 3 into 2, 3 factorial into 2 into 1. 3 factorial get cancelled out. 2 2s are 4, 5 2s are 10. So 5C3 is going to be 10. We have discussed this thing in detail, how to solve NCR. That's why I am not emphasizing here much on how to solve NCR. We have discussed this in the basics of the chapter, where we have discussed permutation and combination. So I hope you all have attended that session. So if you have not attended the basic section, then the agenda of workshop will get dissolved if we do not understand the basics. So I'm not going to give you the detailed analysis how it is happening. So 5C4 is going to be 5 and 5C3 is going to be 10. So 5 into 10 will become 50, and in the next case also 5C3 is 10 and 5C4 is 5. So 5 into 10 again will become 50. 50 plus 50, 100. So there are 100 ways in which he can answer the question, or he can attempt the paper. So what are the conditions? Again, I'm just explaining it for you. What are the conditions? Two conditions here are given, that he has to answer 7 questions out of total 10 questions. 10 questions were there which are divided into two sections, section A and section B. Both the section A and B contains 5 questions each. And one more condition is there, that at most he can answer 4 questions from any of the sections. That means he cannot answer all the 5 questions from any of the section. So there are two possibilities: either he can answer 4 questions from first section and 3 questions from second section, and whether he can answer 3 questions from first section and 4 questions from the second section, and we can make the selections accordingly. I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay, so let's move further. Let's take next question. Next question is question number 15. So again, just get an idea what has to be done in this question, then I'll be solving it for you. Take 30 seconds. Okay, I hope all of you have read the question. Let me just explain it to you once, then I'll be solving it for you. Question number 15 says A can complete a job in 9 days, full stop. B can complete it in 15 days. So A working alone can complete the job in 9 days. B working alone can complete the job in 15 days. They work together for 5 days. Both A and B work together on that job for 5 days, full stop. The remaining part of the job, the both A and B worked for only for 5 days and then they left obviously, and the remaining part of the job was completed by C in 4 days. So the total wage paid to 3 to complete the job is 27,000. Find the C share. I need to find out the value of C share. Okay, so let us suppose total work is equal to 1 unit. If total work was 1 unit, and that total 1 unit work, if A works alone, he can complete that job in 9 days. So how much work he does in 1 day? 1 by 9. If he completes 1 unit work in 9 days, so he completes 1 by 9 units of work in 1 day. And A and B together have worked for 5 days. So the part of the work completed by A in 1 day is 1 by 9. So in 5 days it is going to be 5 by 9. So A has completed 5 by 9 units of work in those 5 days, and similarly B can complete the whole 1 unit work in 15 days. So how much B is doing in 1 day? 1 by 15 units. So in 5 days how much B is going to do? B is going to complete 5 by 15, which is 1 by 3, because in 1 day B completes 5 by 15 units of work, which is if B completes 1 by 15 units of work, so in 5 days he is going to complete 5 by 15 units of work, which is 1/3 of the work. So A and B together have completed 5 by 9 plus 1 by 3 of the work in 5 days, and whatever be the remaining part of the job, that is completed by C in 4 days. So what part of the job is left? That is total work is 1 minus 5 by 9 minus 1 by 3. Why minus 5 by 9 minus 1 by 3? Because A has completed 5 by 9 units of work in those 5 days and B has completed 1/3 of the work in those 5 days. So whatever be the work done by A and B, that has to be subtracted from the total work. So the remaining work is to be found out, which has to be done by C. So what part of the work to be completed by C? 1 minus 5 by 9 minus 1 by 3. After solving, we'll be getting 1 by 9. So 1 by 9th part of the work is to be done by C. So if C is doing 1 by 9th part of the work, so C will be getting 1 by 9th part of the total salary, or the total amount which they are all are receiving for the job. If I am completing 1 by 9th of the work, so I will be getting 1 by 9th of the total share. Obviously, whatever work I will done, I will be get paid for that work only. So if C is doing 1/9 of the work, 1 by 9th of the work, she will be getting how much share? She will be getting 1/9 of the total share. And what is 1/9 of the total share? 1/9 of 27,000, which is 3,000. So she share is going to be 3,000. I hope it is clear to everyone. How I have done this question? Question is clearly mentioning A alone can complete the work in 9 days. So suppose if total work was 1 unit, so A completes 1 by 9 units in 1 day. Similarly, B completes 1 by 15 units in 1 day. So what is the work done by A in 5 days? 5 by 9 units. What is the work done by B in 5 days? 5 by 15 or 1 by 3 units. So what is and whatever be the remaining work after A and B completes their part, that is to be done by C. And what is that amount? That is total minus A's work minus B's work. So 1 minus 5 by 9 minus 1 by 3, which is upon solving will be getting 1/9. So 1 by 9th of the total work is done by C. So 1 by 9th of the total amount is to be paid to C, or C will be getting 1 by 9th of the total amount. And what is the total amount they got? 27,000. And 1 by 9 of 27,000 is going to be rupees 3,000. So 3,000 is going to be the C share. I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay. Next question number 16. Again, take 30-40 seconds just to get an idea what has to be done in this question. Then I'll be solving it for you. Okay, I hope all of you have read the question and most of you have got the idea what has to be done. So this is the question from mixture and alligation topic. So what has to be done here? What question is giving? A and B are two alloys made up of copper and zinc. So there are two alloys, alloy A and alloy B. Both are made up of two metals, copper and zinc. So what is their composition? A is in the ratio 3:7. That is, copper and zinc in A is in the ratio 3:7 and B in the ratio 4:9. So copper and zinc in B is going to be 4:9. What is the ratio of copper to zinc if 20 grams of A and 30 grams of B are mixed? We want to find out what is the ratio of copper and zinc in the resultant alloy. We have mixed A and B like that. 20 grams of A has taken and 30 grams of B has taken, and a new alloy is formed. So what is the ratio of copper to zinc in that new alloy? That has been asked in the question. So let's just try to solve this question. So how we are going to do that? We know that required ratio is going to, what is the composition of A? A is having copper and zinc in the ratio 3:7. And how much total quantity of A is taken? 20 grams of A is taken. So what is the copper which comes out from A? It is going to be 3 by 10 of 20. And what is the copper which comes out of B? It is 4 by, total is 13. 4 plus 9 is 13. So 4 by 13 of 30. And what is the zinc taken out from A? It is going to be 7 by 10 of 30. And what is the zinc taken out from B? It is going to be 9 by 13 of the 30. So this is going to be total. We have added the copper content from A and copper content of B. Similarly, we have added the zinc content of A as well as the zinc content of B and got their ratio. So after solving, what we are getting, ratio to be 1980.4520. After simplifying, we'll be getting ratio to be 99:226, which is option number C. So what I have done here, there were two alloys given, alloy A and alloy B. Alloy B both having copper and zinc only. Alloy A contains copper and zinc in the ratio 3:7 and alloy B contains copper and zinc in the ratio 4:9. We need to form a new resultant alloy by mixing 20 grams of alloy A with 30 grams of alloy B. That has been asked in the question. So we have taken how much copper is coming out of A and how much copper is coming out of B. We have just added it, and similarly we have taken how much zinc is coming out of A and how much zinc is coming out of B, and we have just added it and take their ratio and just simplified it. That has been asked in the question. So simple addition is given. I hope it is clear to every one of you. Okay, so let's move on to next question. Question number 17. Again, take 30 seconds. Just get an idea what has to be done in this question. Then I'll be solving it for you. Okay, so let's start. How many positive integral solutions are possible for the equation x square minus y square is equal to 110? It has been asked in the question. So let's just start solving it. Most of you have got the wrong answer. I think that's my uh, intake for this question. That's most of you have. Some of you have got the right answer also, but most of you have got the wrong answer also. How? Let's just get an idea what has to be done in this question. So this is x square minus y square. What is x square minus y square? It is x plus y into x minus y. And we have factorized 110. It comes out to be 2 into 11 into 5. We have taken the prime factorization which we have discussed in the numbers class. So it is x plus y into x minus y is equal to 2 into 11 into 5. So whenever x plus y, when expressed in x plus y and x minus y as a product of two numbers, one is even and the other number is odd. Why? Because 110 is a even number. It contains only 1, 2, and one of the number is even and the other number is odd. Then only it is possible because there is only one multiple of 2. So either x plus y is even, x minus y is odd, or x plus y is odd, x minus y is even. One of them has to be even and other one has to be odd. Then only this kind of arrangement is possible. So, and after solving we will not be getting any integer value of x plus y and x minus y. For example, let's take an example. Suppose x plus y is 4. Suppose x plus y is 2 and x minus y is 1. If we add both of them, so y will get cancelled out. We will be getting 2x is equal to what we will be getting? 2x is equal to 3, because, or you can say 2x is equal to odd number, because if x plus y is even and x minus y is odd, odd plus even is going to be odd, odd plus even is going to be odd, and we are getting here twice of something is equal to odd, which is not possible because x will become non-integer, because odd upon 2 will go there that side, and odd upon 2 is not possible, not an integer value comes out, it will comes out to be a decimal value. So that's why it is not possible here. So answer is going to be there is no integral solution for this equation. Or we can generalize this thing. We can make a note of it. Just make a note of this thing. In general, whenever x square minus y square is equal to k is given, where k is an even number, then its solutions are only possible when k is a multiple of 4. Otherwise their solutions are not possible, or they will not be, or you can say integral solutions are possible, but that are not integral solutions. So integral solutions are only possible when k is a multiple of 4. Otherwise it is not possible, because either of x plus y and x minus y will become, one of them will become even and one of them will become odd, and when we are going to add them, even plus odd is going to be odd, and twice of something is equal to odd, so something will become odd upon 2, which is not an integer. So the value of x or y will not come out to be integer. So for them to give an integer solution, whenever x square minus y square is equal to k is given and k is an even number, then that k has to be multiple of 4. Then only both of them will become even, then it can be possible. I hope it is clear too. And if it's a multiple of 4, 1 2 will go that side, 1 2 will go that side, and both of them will become even, and even plus even is going to be again even, and now we can get the possible integral solutions. I hope it is clear. But whenever x square minus y square is equal to k is given and k is an odd number, then there is no problem. You can directly get the answer. I hope this is clear to everyone. Okay, so let's move on to next question. Question number 18. So again, just take 30 seconds to get the idea what has to be done in this question, then I'll be solving it for you. Okay, so I hope all of you have read the question. So let me just explain the question once to you. What has been asked in the question: if log base 6 of 16 is a, find the value of log base 12 of 81. So we can solve these kind of questions only when we are very used to of the properties of log. So just mug up all the properties of log, then only you will be able to solve such questions. So let's just start solving this question. What has been given to us? Log base 6 of 16 is a, and 16 can be written as 2 to the power 4. So, and we have discussed in a log that log a to the power b or log a to the power m can be written as m log a. So we can take the power outside or behind. So it will become 4 log base 6 of 2 is equal to 8. A. So log base 6 of 2 will become a upon 4. Now we have studied one more property of log, that if log base a of b is given, we can write that log base a of b as 1 upon log base b of a. So we can exchange the base and the number, but we have to take the reciprocal. So log base a of b can be written as log base b 1 upon log base b of a. So here also we can change the base to 2 from 6 and the number to 6 from 2. Wow, log base 6 of 2 can be written as 1 upon log base 2 of 6 easily. So after taking their rest, so we can say 1 upon log base 2 of 6 is equal to a by 4. Taking reciprocal both the sides, will be getting log base 2 of 6 is equal to 4 by a. So, and 6 can be written as 3 into 2 also. So log base 2 of 3 into 2 is equal to 4 upon a. Or we know one of the property of log, that log a into b is equal to log a plus log b. Similarly, log base 2 of 3 into 2 will become log base 2 of 3 plus log base 2 of 2. This is the property of log multiplication converted into addition. Log ab is log a plus log b. So log base 2 of 3 into 2 is written as log base 2 of 3 plus log base 2 of 2. And we know one more property of log. Log base 2 of 2 is 1. Log base a of a is going to be 1 always. So in any base, that number itself log is going to be 1. So log base 2 of 2 is 1. So log base 2 of 3 will become 4 upon a minus 1. Now we have got the value of log base 2 of 3 to be 4 upon a minus 1 or 4 minus a upon a. Further we cannot simplify it. Now let's move on to whatever be asked in the question. So what has been asked in the question? You need to find out the value of log base 12 of 81. So how to get that value? So again start simplifying. 81 can be written as 3 to the power 4. Whatever we have discussed in 16 also similarly. 81 can be written as 3 to the power 4, and 4 can be taken outside or taken to the back of this log. So it can be written as 4 log base 12 of 3. I hope it is clear. So it can be written as 4 log base 12 of 3. So now next step is going to be this number log base 12 of 3 can be written as log base 2 of 3 upon log base 2 of 12. We have discussed one more property of log, where we have said log base a of b can also be written as log base m of b upon log base m of a. I'm again telling you, one property we have discussed in log chapter is that log base a of b is equal to log base m of b upon log base m of a. So we can change the base according to us whatever we want by using this property. So here we have changed the base from base 12 to base 2. Why we have done that? Because in our question what we have reached till the value of log base 2 of 3 is known. Log base 12 is not known. That's why we have changed the value of base from 12 to 2. And how we have done that? By using the property log base a of b is equal to log base m of b upon log base m of a. So log base 12 of 3 can be written as log base 2 of 3 upon log base 2 of 12. So 4 is already there. So again 12 can be written as 4 into 3, and we know that log AB is log A plus log B. So it will become 4 times log base 2 of 3 upon log base 2 of 4 plus log base 2 of 3 by using the property log AB is log A plus log B. So now we know the value of log base 2 upon 3 is already known to us. It is 4 upon A minus 1. Just plug in the values to get the answer. And after solving, we'll be getting their value to be 16 minus 4A upon A plus 4, which is option number C, which is going to be your answer. Now you have seen in this question that this question is purely based on properties. We have used 3-4 properties exhaustively in this question. So if we do not know the properties, if we do not know where to use and how to use the property, we have not practiced it, we are not going to get the answers of such questions. I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay. So this is the just the application of logs where we have used the properties exhaustively. Okay, so let's move forward to next question, question number 19. So this is the question number 19 for you. So just take an idea, take 30-40 seconds, then I'll be solving it for you. Okay, so I hope all of you have read the question. So let me just explain the question once, then I'll be solving it for you. What does this question says? The common ratio of a GP, where we have discussed GP, AP GP we have discussed in sequence and series. So the common ratio of a GP, what is GP? Where any two consecutive terms ratio is going to be same. For example, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 and so on. In this series, take any two consecutive term, their ratio is same, so they are said to be in geometric progression or in GP. And whatever be that same ratio, that is called as common ratio, denoted by R. And first term is the A. We have discussed in sequence and series this thing in detail. So common ratio of a GP is a positive number less than 1. Okay, and the first term is 48. The difference between the second term and the third term is 9. Find the common ratio. You need to find out what is the common ratio. So first term is known to us. What is the first term? 48. And if first term is the 48 and common ratio is a positive number less than 1, we can assume common ratio to be R. If common ratio is R and first term is 48, what would be my second term? It would be 48 into R. Then only their ratio is going to be R. 48 R upon R. 48 is 48. 48 will get cancelled out. We'll be getting R, which is the common ratio. And if second term is 48 R, third term is going to be 48 R into R, which will become 48 R square. Only then we'll be getting ratio of third term to second term also R. 48 48 cancel out. R square power 2 is cancelled out by R, will be left out with R only. So if first term is 48 and common ratio we have assumed it to be R, then my terms is going to be 48, 48 into R, and 48 into R square is going to be my 3 terms. So now we have got my 3 terms. What is given in this question? The difference between the second term and the third term is 9. What is second term here? 48R. And what is third term here? 48R square. So we can say that their difference is going to be 9. So by rearranging them and taking 3 common and cancelling from both the side, we'll be getting a quadratic equation. So now we just have to solve the quadratic equation, and till now we have become the champion of solving quadratic equation, I think so. So we have again factorized it and solved the quadratic equation, and we have got the value of R to be 3 by 4 or 1 by 4. So answer is going to be option D, either A or B. So either the value of R can be 3 by 4 or the value of R can be 1 by 4. How we have done that? We have been given the value of first term to be 48 and we have assumed common ratio to be R. So if first term is 48, second term is going to be 48 into R, third term is going to be 48 into R square. And what is given? The difference between second and third term is 9. So second term minus third term is going to be 9. So 48R minus 48R square is going to be 9. After solving the quadratic equation, we'll be getting the value of R to be either 3 by 4 or 1 by 4. I hope it is clear to both of them, all of them, sorry. Okay, so let's just move on to next question, question number 20. Just take 30 seconds to just read the question and get an idea in your mind what has to be done. Again, need not to solve, I'll be solving it for you. Okay, so what is the question here? ABCD is a rectangular sheet whose dimensions is known to us 30 centimeter into 20 centimeter, which means length of that rectangular sheet is going to be 30 centimeter and breadth of that rectangular sheet is going to be 20 centimeter. So at each of the four corners, what we have done, we have taken a square of 6 centimeter. We have taken out the square. 6 centimeter square is taken out, and we have just folded and it will become a cuboid. So we need to find out the volume of that cuboid form. Okay, so how can we get the volume? What is the volume of cuboid? Length into breadth into height. So we need to get the new length, new breadth, and height is going to be 6, because whatever we cut out, that is going to be upward there. So now we need to get the new length and the new breadth first. So earlier length was 30 and 6 from both of its side is cut. So I can say 6 into 2, 12 is cut from it. So whatever is left, 30 minus 12, which is 18. Similarly, from the breadth was 20 and 6 and 6. From both sides it is cut. So it will become 20 minus 6 into 2, which is 8. So new length is going to be 18 and new breadth is going to be 8. And what is the height? It is going to be 6, which has been cut. Then it has to be folded like that only in the 6 height. So what is the volume? Length into breadth into height, it is going to be 18 into 8 into 6, which is 864 centimeter cube. I hope it is clear to everyone. What I have done, I have cut length. From length, we have taken 6 part from this side, 6 part from this side. So double of 6 is going to be 12. So new length is going to be 30 minus 12, which is 18. Similarly, new breadth is going to be 20 minus 12, which is 8, and height is 6 units only. So 18 into 8 into 6 is going to be the volume, which is 864 centimeter cube, which is option D in this case.